Hey friends, I hope you're doing well and that you had a fantastic summer. A couple years ago when Rachel and I were in London, we lived right next to Charles Spurgeon's original church. Now Charles Spurgeon, he used to be a famous pastor in the 18th century that had a very successful ministry, and people would always ask him what was his success, what made him so successful, and without hesitation he would always say, "My people pray for me." And that has always inspired me and encouraged me because ultimately ministry is not so much about our strategy, but really a dependence on God. And so what I want to invite you guys to do is to be praying for this ministry and specifically the next 5 weeks, because the next 5 weeks are probably the most strategic and important weeks, because this is a time when the new school year approaches and we start to really rev things up of engaging with new students and cultivating our community. So what I want to do is I just want to break down very briefly these next 5 weeks and how you can be praying for us specifically. So week 1, August 12th, what I'd ask you guys to be praying for is for our staff. It's our staff week, and it is a time where we are, first of all, vision casting of what we're doing this year. And this year what we're doing is, our theme is to be a disciple to the nations. Ultimately, we want to be disciples of Jesus, but also recognize the calling is to the ends of the earth. And then there's also just the reality that many of our students after graduation, they end up going all over the United States and all over the world. And so we want to prepare them with a world vision of what God is doing everywhere. So please be praying for our vision, and then ultimately be praying for our alignment, that we do everything we can to be able to put our resources and our skills to really see this theme and this vision cultivated. The second week on August 19th, what I'd ask you guys to be praying about is for our student leaders. The week after is when all of our student leaders arrive, and it is a space where we are setting direction, we're motivating our students, and we're giving them the tools and vision for being able to engage with the NYU campus and these new students, as well as giving them kind of the personal time with God and kind of cultivating their skills. So be praying for their hearts, be praying for the logistics that we'll need to do, and then also at such a time as this, what we've been preparing these students to do is to begin discipleship relationships where they're meeting with students weekly, getting into the scriptures, praying for them, and really living life with them. And so pray that this would again kind of be a cultivation and a focus for these students when they're preparing their hearts for the next week. So week 3, August 26th, is NYU's Welcome Week. And that is when all of the new students are unleashed all over New York City. And it is it's a lot, let's just say that, because there's just so many events and many things, and the students are just very excited to be in New York City. And so what I'd really ask you to pray for is pray for their protection. It can be a time where they're being exposed to the city, and a lot of dangerous things can end up happening. But more importantly, what I'd ask you to be praying for us is that we'd be able to reach as many students as we can. Last year we were able to reach 2,600 students, and by doing so, about 27% of them indicated some sort of interest in our club, be it that they wanted to hear the gospel for the first time, or they wanted to join a Bible study, or they wanted to join our community. Pray that not only that we hit a large amount of people that we're reaching out to, but that Lord is actually providing us the right relationships that we'll be able to cultivate and care of and help them grow while they're here in New York City. And then so the next 2 weeks, weeks 4 and 5, they're very similar, but ultimately week 4, what I'd ask you to pray for is that's the first week of classes. That's really the orientation. That first week is so strategic because usually what that week looks like for the students ends up being their rhythms for what they'll do for the rest of the semester. So pray for healthy rhythms for them. Pray that they get connected to community. Pray that they get connected to God ultimately. And so this is a time when ultimately for us as well, we're getting our large group started, our Bible studies, even our mentorship started. So pray that we just continue to connect with students, follow up with them. And then finally for that last week, would you just pray that we just continue to be faithful with what God has provided for us in that time. The fifth week can always be a very tiring time, but is also a very important time. So that's ultimately the next 5 weeks ahead. They are daunting, usually 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. And so if you even could, what I'd ask you to do is just, if you could reply to the email and just let me know that you're praying and you're committed to praying during this time, or leave a comment down on YouTube, that would just be a huge encouragement to me and the team, just to remind us that we're not doing this alone, but ultimately that we have an army that's supporting us from behind. So thank you guys so much. It goes without saying that you guys are incredibly faithful, and so thank you guys for the support and the prayer that you guys provide for us in New York City. And so thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, take care.